Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome back to Third Culture Combos, the place where third culture kids sit back, relax, and talk about the beauty of being from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. I'm your host, Waseem, and I'm joined by you boys. You know them as well as I do. No, maybe I think I might know them a bit better. Rashed and Majid in the house. Say what's up, guys.
What up, yo?
And today's topic is about something that's been really grinding my gears. I've been thinking about group identity and arrogance, and especially with, I guess I imagine the word would be converts. So here's the situation that happened as I was scrolling through Instagram one day. Now, I follow a wide variety of things, and usually I try to follow things on the opposite sides of a spectrum, just to see, to create a bubble that has a bit of contrast in it. And one of the groups that I follow is they're called fitna-free humor. And so fitna-free humor is all like Muslim jokes, like jokes by Muslims about other things. So what, like the one post that came up in context of what I'm talking about here, it was a picture of a smiling beard, a man with a smiling beard, and it says, "You grow your beard for style, I grow my beard for sunnah. We are not the same." And I was like, "All right, okay." And then I go to the next post, and the next group that I follow is, in context of this, are called Muslim atheists. And Muslim atheists are obviously the opposite of fitna for humor, and Muslim atheists were doing every now and then they go on like a crazy posting rant, but then they were doing a lot of characters of Muhammad. So they were just like drawing, this is Muhammad, and drawing like a picture, and they're saying like two stick figures, and they're like, this one is Muhammad, one of these is Muhammad. And they would do things along those lines in order to also do the same thing. And the one thing that popped up to me that was like, oh, the thing that both these groups could probably relate about, even though they would probably never be sitting in the same room together, is that they're like, both of those posts drip with arrogance. I feel, I don't like my reaction to that is, these people can't hear each other. They cannot actually have a conversation about with each other, because of their position, like the nature of their position and how they choose to share with the world.
They drip with arrogance, and both of them require the other to make fun of. They're not promoting their own thing, they're just denouncing the other. Rashed, please take.
Yeah. So it is funny, like one needs the other to exist in order to actually be relevant. But at the same time, I just want to know what makes them think in their brain that they're better than the other. So the first one that you said, Waseem, where it's you do this for style and I do this for sunnah. And it's
We are not the same.
and we are not the same.
We are not the same. Like, that's the kicker.
But the thing is, okay, so, and I get it. People use this hadith, and they whatever it is in terms of talking about how you should grow your beard a certain length and all that kind of stuff. So I can understand where they're getting the whole sunnah thing from. But even still, there's really no clarification on that. Like, even some of these people, they have their freaking beard, and it's all tethered, and it's all not well kept. But at the same time, it's just what makes you think you're better than someone else because of your beard, or because that you feel like you're so woke where you're so woke to the point where you're doing these caricatures and you're playing a joke and like making a pun about the caricatures. And what makes you think you're so much better than someone else just because of a point that you're trying to make. Is what I'm
It
trying to get at.
also
That's a conversation I want to have with someone like from one of these realms. That's what I want to understand.
it also seems to fundamentally go against their belief that they keep preaching about. So if you grew this for sunnah, you should believe in God and you shouldn't need to worry about your fellow man and how they are judging man or woman, like humankind, and how they are judging you. You should only be worried about God, and God knows your intentions for growing the beard, whether it's style or substance or sunnah or whatever word you want. God will decide that. You don't need to worry about these people. You don't need to make a Facebook post to tell them about it. What are you preaching? Why so arrogant? Where is this? The arrogance is God to you, not you to them or anything. The other thing is, it's the same with the others. Your whole purpose in life right now is that I'm beyond the Muslim God. I'm done with that. Yet all you do in life is go back and rant about the Muslim God you've left. If you pass that, why are you still going on about it? Who cares about it?
What's so
Right,
funny
because
about
so
I think
it starts with the arrogance thing, right? And then now we're moving into the judgment thing, where the one, for example, who's all about I do this for sunnah, for example, would be one of the first people to say that no one else can judge me but my God. But you're doing the exact same thing.
well, that's my point. My point is that they're both doing the exact same thing from different sides. And
Yeah.
I think it's astute saying that they have they require the other, even as specifically, I'm talking about, it's so funny, even the names of the groups. So Muslim atheists, you're the Muslim atheist. Like, you can't even leave Muslim. Just be an atheist, man. But I understand you need to have the group label of being like, I'm not a regular kind of atheist. I'm this version. I'm version Muslim 0.0. Like, I'm a Muslim 0.0 atheist.
That's going to get
Edgier
people to
than the
go onto
normal
your
atheist.
page.
That's what
Yeah.
they're proving. That's what they're trying
Yeah,
to
yeah.
prove with
Yeah,
this. That
yeah.
I'm even more. I went from those guys.
Yeah.
You guys
And
ran from these.
Those guys are going to want to behead me for what I just said. So, what are you saying, atheist to Christian? Oh, yeah, big whoop-de-whoop. Oh, no, I'm so scared. And then with even fitna free has the word fitna in the group. So the idea is like, it mentions in the identity the negation, the existence, and then and the need to negate the other in order to exist as an identity. And what's so interesting about this is the implications on intergroup relations, right? So like, we're such a like tribal creatures, right? Like we cannot even almost in our conversation right now about these groups and using the term third culture kids. And so I could say Muslim third culture kids. I could say, and then that will put us in a particular box, and then that box, or third culture kids as opposed to monoculture kids, or what, like the other term. And so using these, is there a way out? Because like the group identity shapes our worldview in it's so powerful and so innate and so deep and so old that is there even an escape? Is there a way out? Like, even in our discussion right here, can we transcend our group and
Well,
find
here's
the
the thing.
divine within all of us?
The thing is, like, we discuss on the show and off of the show how we get really annoyed about this arrogance and judgment thing that we're talking about. The thing is, for me, is I don't know if we can avoid it, because I feel like it's there. I'm not going to say it's innate in humans, but we as people, as an individual, or when you get into a group type of situation, there is always people always tend to want to one up the other for whatever reason. So I don't even know how, as humans, we can get away from that, because it just seems like we end up doing it on so naturally, not even, and sometimes subconsciously, don't even realize what we're doing.
It's also actively being promoted now. Like when you have a Twitter blurb or an Instagram blurb, you're expected to label yourself. This is your chance to label who you want to be for a second, right? So like you can choose geographic location, you can choose your interest, you can choose, but we're forced to pigeonhole just the way our society and culture and technology is integrated. You are forced to be a super fan. Like when you are a super fan of a brand, that's when they're gonna acknowledge you, right? They're not gonna acknowledge you if you just like something. They're gonna acknowledge you if you identify yourself as a Lego man. My entire life is Lego. Now you'll get their attention. But if you're just like someone who, yeah, like I spend an hour a week playing with Legos, meh, not in the
Well, yeah, it's like when
Just
you
stop.
do a
Just stop.
hashtag something on like your Instagram reel or something like that. Get enough views for that, and you're gonna get paid for it.
And it's so does this
and
mean
it's based on that group
Yeah,
mentality and
well
almost that
because
arrogance
now
of
you're
my
promoting
product,
that
the one
group.
I am using is the best and I'm
well
cheerleading
does
for it.
social media I guess like here's the question. Does social media reinforce these the sort of group barriers that create barriers in terms of empathizing and understanding people on the others in other groups?
I don't think it reinforces it. It exacerbates it. It makes it far worse because now you're going to write your tweet. As a 28-year-old Muslim man, I find this atrocious. As a pregnant woman of 3 kids, like you're removing the human being aspect and you're trying to divide and conquer and compartmentalize further and further so that that universal human emotion is only shared by your lot now, which is female, mother, 3 babies, that kind of thing, that 1, 2, 3 divisions, right? So I actually think it doesn't even reinforce, it exacerbates it a lot worse.
And I would say that it's made it easier to have it, as we've said before, to have this type of branding of a group put in the palm of your hand because of social media. Because if we're going to talk about branding in commercials and advertisements the way it used to be before social media, it was basically a TV commercial. And so in a TV commercial, it's Budweiser. And what do? They show a bunch of friends together at a bar or at a baseball stadium or something like that. And basically, and they have a certain look to them. So now in those old, and they still exist on TV now, but like in those advertisements, it's saying this group of people, they look like this and they drink our product. Are you one of them? Do you want to be one of them? And then there's the whole thing where it's you get a celebrity or a sports star to promote your brand and be like, that person drinks our stuff, or that person uses our makeup, for example, when you're appealing to women or anyone who wears makeup now. It's, do you want to be part of our group? And then it just makes it so much easier now. It's like Kim Kardashian, for example, she can be promoting something. She'll get, I don't know, she has how many millions of followers. And every time that she posts something and with the hashtag of whatever brand, she gets paid for it at some point. But now it's in the palm of your hands.
You spoke about, you started it with these religious people and
Mm.
the arrogance. And there's almost innately, I would argue, very slowly, that there's inherent to any sort of religious argument is an arrogance that like, oh, I just want to. So you're like, when it comes to the like a religious leaning, still, it's almost inherent. I want to give you a different example to prove the same thing, to what you're saying, reinforce what you are saying. I find one group shocking in their arrogance. Gun owners in America. Are we allowed to go there, guys, or no?
Absolutely.
You guys see the connections I'm making, or no?
I'm fine with this.
I think actually probably the easiest. I think the most welcoming group for this type of talk. Oh, you want to say something? Sure.
I'm just saying, what do you call this kind of behavior when the day after 15 children, school children, small, not even like high school, have been shot, killed, murdered, innocently going to school, and the next day a congressman is making a social media on his phone showing his AR-15 and telling the president, the commander in chief, if you want this piece of equipment.
Come and get it.
Come get it from my cold dead hands. Is that not arrogance? Am I off base? Tucker Carlson style. Am I crazy here? Is this, maybe it's not arrogance.
I think I I think this is probably exactly because you are extending it. Now, the loudest voices get the most attention, right? So in every group, so where I will disagree with you is on the religious group or any ideological group, let's say, or where you fall into ideology. You don't necessarily fall into ideology. You're not inherently going to become arrogant. I feel like on the inside, you need to note the tendency. Like it's a slippery slope. And so you, Mr. or Mrs. whoever, however you group yourself, you will I want to say this, you will naturally fall into an arrogant position that will create chasms between you and others, where they're over there, they're the other, you're the in group, they're the out group, and you are better than them as a result of your ideas and your opinions and your actions or whatever. You are better than all these other people. And that is a natural slide that, unless you are aware that this slide exists, and it's funny because I said slide actually takes you down, not up. But it's a funny slide that unless you're aware of its existence, you cannot defend yourself against going down that slide and falling down that rabbit hole and really losing that sort of your ability to have nuance and conversation and debate and seeing the humanity in others. Yeah, even I use we are not the same. We are not the same. We are not the same exactly means that I am better than you. Can it mean anything else? And you, with what we know as like the idealistic Islamic values, that doesn't oh yeah, I am better.
It doesn't jive.
It doesn't jive. And then
all.
and the same, and so I'm not just picking on that group. I'm also picking on the Muslim atheist, because the Muslim atheist is doing the same thing, as is so the loud proponents, the people that actually start the Instagram page, that like take leadership, let's say, in that group and have taken that position, right? That's who I'm discussing right now, the loudest voices, and I don't know what the majority do. I don't know, is it a silent majority that are like, I imagine that most people just walk through life, right? They're just like mind their own business in some places or others. And then some people don't mind their own business, right? And they slide down that slide, and they have no idea that they're sliding down the slide, and nothing's gonna get them. And even those people, I'm careful. I'm right now trying to be careful not to slide down the slide, and to be like those idiots, right?
I almost feel like it's, if you want to be that mouthpiece and the loudest person in the room for a certain group, I feel like going down that slide is inevitable, because in a sense, if you're the mouthpiece, your whole purpose is to prove why your group is better than the other.
Well, unless you are a part of an oppressed group.
Right. Because being a part of an oppressed group means that you're trying to come up from whatever's pushing you down.
Whatever
right?
injustice is being done
to
your group. So like, it takes a lot of courage and leadership to be that mouthpiece.
Because in that case, your purpose at that point and your MO at that point is not to prove that you're better than another group. You're trying to prove as to why you shouldn't be oppressed. So your whole standpoint is not about I'm better than you at this point. It's more so, why can't I have the same rights as you?
Yeah.
Why can't it be as equal as you?
And
Yes.
that was exemplified. The press abused this, manipulated this very carefully with Malcolm X. They made him like, oh, yo, he's really arrogant and like he's all about violence. And they changed it from, yo, I'm oppressed and I'm trying to help my people, independence and stuff. And they changed it, they manipulated it with their words and their fancy tongues into he's uppity and arrogant. And same with Dr. King kind of thing, that when they use the word uppity, it's arrogant and
Well,
like
I
he
mean,
thinks he's better than us.
even currently, I think this is. I've been watching the Vinicius Junior. So for those of you that don't know, Vinicius Junior is a Brazilian, a dark-skinned Brazilian soccer player that plays in Spain for Real Madrid, and he's a tricky player. So as in, he's very fast and can can humiliate defenders, and so they
Humiliate defenders? My God.
he can, well, he can and does, and
Poetry
he's
in
young,
motion, my friends.
and he's young, and so the press and the fans and other players are they do a lot of racist abuse against him. They do a lot of racist things, and then you can see, and it culminated over the weekend in a game where he stopped playing because there were some fans that were making monkey noises and gestures right in front of him, and he stopped and was just yelling at them. And this wasn't the first, the second, the third time, the fourth time. And his beef, or what he's saying, is that if all of these actions continuously go unpunished, as they have over the last few years since I've been playing in Spain, then there are no punishments being, like, this is not being dealt with. Like, you say no room for racism, you put a cool logo where there's no room in between the lines, and you say, okay, we did our job, but it culminates in that thing. And apparently in sort of Spanish media, so he got into, so a little bit after the game was stopped because he was challenging the fans, the goalkeeper rushed him, the opposing team goalkeeper rushed him. There was a ruckus. Someone was headlocking him from behind, and then he turned around and hit the guy, and the ref saw the hit but didn't see the headlock, and so gave him a red card, and so he was sent off in that match. And so of course it's all falling apart. Like, the whole match is falling apart over these incidents. But the conversation later in the press was, yeah, people were being racist against Vinicius, maybe, but Vinicius was asking for it. And so there was a lot of that blaming the victim mentality, and a false equivalence between he is humiliating the other players by dribbling past them. And so it's okay. And it's all part of the heated game. So fans are allowed to say what they want. And so that's where it's going. And it's where you see, I think, a lot of this even in sports, right? Like, the group in sports, the team that you follow, they literally have the term, like, ultras, right? Like, it's, you'll get the tattoo, you live and die the day they lose, the day they win. Like, you live and die by this group that, like, you attach yourself to this group, and you're in it. And my team's better than all the other teams. Like, I don't see what the difference is. It's the same as what we're just talking about.
The biggest difference, I guess, yes, the arrogance is there and all, but the dangerous part about the ultras is the fact that they tend to be the violent groups out of the supporter groups for whichever club has an ultra section.
If we're talking about groups and arrogance, FIFA is like top 5 all time. But I'm a football fan. The crazy part is all three of us love the sport of football. This is, for as much as we talk about UEFA and FIFA, we actually love the sport. It's the people, the body, the governing body, the group, and their arrogance behind that group mentality. And this Vinny Jr. thing is it's crystal clear. Like the arrogance with which FIFA has approached the problem solving for this issue is a joke, atrocious, and it's an insult to everyone's intelligence. First and foremost, the players who are abused. First and foremost, them. Because it's not just Vinny Jr., and it's been happening for years with Vinny Jr. This isn't a solo incident. And it's really weird that the victim gets blamed every time. People are questioning Vinny Jr. Why is he acting so unprofessional? Why can't he just get on with it? Shut up and dribble.
Yeah.
Like they're pointing at him that, why did he stop the game? What's his problem? Why can't he just play? Why can't he be a man? And it's, bro, like, why can't you guys be human beings? Forget about him being a man. Why don't you first be humans? And then we'll talk about his gender, right?
Yeah.
Because we're talking about group mentality when Napoli, the football club in Serie A for Italy, when they won or they did something big, there was a Confederate flag that their ultras, their fans were flying in the celebration. And Napoli and Serie A also are notorious for their problems with colored athletes of color, especially like Balotelli and stuff. That's just the old example that I remember. But even up to now, they're flying Confederate flags while celebrating a league title or whatever. And it's just, that's also a different thing is how does one group attach its feelings and sentiments to another group sometimes? Do you get what I mean?
Oh, how they use another group for their purpose.
Not even purpose, just Waseem.
Or how they relate to another group.
Wanting to buy an Argentina jersey instead of a Brazil jersey. Why did he attach his sort of like thing to that? And there's only 2 or 3 countries that Saudi Arabians attach themselves to. You won't find any Saudi who's an English fan. None of them like the English national team, but they love the German one. So it's not a European thing either. I'm sorry, I'm like going.
Well, and a big part, especially with the world, like the sort of international tournaments, what we associate with the team, Russia got kicked out, allowing to compete due to not because the Russian soccer team went and started beating, like the Russian soccer team didn't invade Ukraine, right? The players didn't invade Ukraine. Abramovich at Chelsea didn't invade Ukraine. But everyone in terms of association with that group was taken into this is the bucket. Okay. Out. And that approach is not consistent with other groups that do similar things. And that's all I'm allowed to say about that. and then even in
we all know who you're referring to, but we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, and it's I think the lack of consistency when it comes to these positions. England was easy because England was England invented colonialism. But so it was an easy group to be like, man. And then even growing up in Saudi, even the state America, right? America was an interesting double-sided situation, but still the arrogance of America, right? When it came to all of the regions, everyone knows about this. Everyone knows what. Yeah, I feel like with the global South, there is an understanding of how the real world works. Right? A general distrust and an understanding of how the real world works because you live in the results of the real world versus in a sort of a protected bubble. Let's say when you live in North America and everything's fine.
Orange County.
And it's fine for you. It's not like for you there, it's fine.
And the world you've grown up in as a third culture kid, as a third culture millennial specifically, has evolved and changed in front of you. The old rules don't count anymore. So, for example, your democratic stalwarts, such as the UK, have not democratically elected a prime minister in the last 4 people. So, like the things we used to take for granted, or you've had in America, you've had a two things. One, that the popular vote winner has lost the election 2 or 3 times since 2000. Hillary and Bush, I think, twice in the last 20 years. And also, you've had a sitting president say that the election is rigged. And you've had the media establishment completely torn down by all the candidates. Around the world, in general, the media establishment, there's a distrust in general. So, as a third culture millennial, that paranoia and that distrust is magnified, I think, and heightened even more so just because the old rules, if you really look at it, don't apply or should not, or there should be institutional distrust, even with the people we thought we could blindly trust.
Yeah, and then no, and then I was gonna say that during COVID and social media just put that on hyperdrive in terms of distrust, mistrust, skepticism, conspiracy theories, all that kind of stuff. You know, with all the different, they want to do this to us, they want to do that to us, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, no, it's true. Social media plays a huge part in that, especially when we're talking about certain generations of people. Definitely, I mean, there's the younger generations obviously use those platforms a lot more. So yeah, the skepticism of media in general, of the governmental institutions, of what people assume that the government group wants to do. In Ontario, Rob Ford has been talking more about the 15-minute cities thing, where they're going to break up a Peel region.
He's been talking about that?
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Apparently that's one of his goals, that he wants to do that. And people are like, okay. Some people are like, oh, it's a way to control us, which when you look at the whole model of the 15-minute cities, you could make the argument, the conspiracy theory argument of it's about control, because you never have to leave your box, right? They control which box you want to live in and which box you're going to do things within, type of thing. Yeah.
By the way, you jogged my memory in terms of arrogant groups that are counted, like exactly opposed to each other, where for a very brief time, but a very entertaining time, you're anti-vaxxers versus vaxxers. Each one had the moral high ground when talking about the other. That if I'm against vaccines, you're an idiot for believing in science, and if I believe in science, you're an idiot for not wanting to get vaccines. I just wanted to throw that.
Yeah, I mean,
Trust the
Mr. Obvious
science.
right here. And I don't think that was temporary. I think actually that continues to this day. I don't think that was temporary. I think that
It's not as
that
prominent as it used to
Well-
be, but it's still definitely there.
because in polite society we're done with talking about it, and in most society I think we're done talking about it. Like nobody necessarily wants to lose anyone else over this. I think, what is it, like loneliness is the biggest problem, and now you're like, I can't stand to lose people over this vaccine issue. But
Mm.
I'm still like arrogant enough to think that anyone that thinks anything different from what I thought is an idiot. So as everybody's an idiot. Here's my question is, can this arrogance in this position be attributed to fear or insecurity with your own group identity?
With the Muslim one, I genuinely do believe yes. Just as a Muslim, I answer with the Muslim one. I think it's a lack of faith in your own God, and like you've heard some stuff, you really don't believe it, but you're putting it on someone else. That kind of idea.
So
I'll give
insecurity.
that credence. I will
Yeah.
give that some weight. Yes. Rushdie?
Yeah. If we're going to the standpoint of the religious side of things, yes, for sure. Because oftentimes when I've met people who have this moral high ground that they like to walk upon, tends to be someone who either has reawakened, tends to be like a recent convert, or I've also met those who come from a pretty conservative family, but the thing is, and they continue with, maintaining the conservatism that they grew up with, religious conservatism that they grew up with. But for me, the first two people that I mentioned, it's as if they the arrogance and the judgment of me being better than everyone else is there because they feel like they found something that all of a sudden was never there. And I'm like, but it's always been there. And it's been there for so many people throughout history. So why do you feel that you're so much better than others because all of a sudden now you've stumbled across it?
Those first two people, I think they're caught up in enthusiasm. The third group, the one you mentioned who grew up in conservative and just continued out, I think those people have never they're very insecure because they've never been intellectually challenged with these ideas. And so
Right.
when they are faced with that, they don't know the ideas, they just go on the offensive, right? Like they grew up in one track mind, exactly what you said. They grew up in that one track mind and khalas, that's it. They weren't allowed at home to question.
Mhm.
That's the first. If you question, you've sinned. Immediately, you've asked a question, my God. And then their friends also, they're generally in an environment where they're not in a diverse upbringing because of those sort of conservative cultural leanings or just generally environmental leanings. And so they haven't been, and they're very insecure about that, or they don't even know that they're insecure and it comes off when they are challenged.
I think one of the things also in terms of fear, I think it's fear of not of being rejected by your group. So when you like, if you were to question, right? Because once you're in the group, okay? Because I'm tying this sort of group identity and arrogance, and the arrogance is the antidote to the fear, right? So for you, you got to be arrogant so that you can be a part of the group because the more arrogant, the better, because your group is better. And then you can sit down and have jokes about everybody on everybody else's expense. And when you're in the club, when you're in the club, it's great being in the club. And once you find the holes in your club, or when somebody points out the holes in your club, or the fear of no longer being a part of the club that has brought you such security in terms of group. I'm with all these people, they're my friends, they like me for me, and they the fear of losing that uh, because I begin to think differently or act differently is definitely a motivator to to keep the arrogance going, which in turn makes it even harder to build bridges with other groups and to have and so it's a cycle. Like it's a bit of a problem that you're stuck in, and it's mostly emotion. Like it is the emotions that are entirely driving your, and everybody's just is just emotional. And that's fine. And that's like, because I was thinking, like, how can you encourage people to note the slide, to note the tendency, and to have the sort of the courage or the independence or I think the courage, the independence, to have the ability to, it's almost like it's so hard to say, no, I'm not going to, I'm not like, to stand up in the group against the group. You literally got to start a new group in order, like, of people that stand up against the group. And then you got the whole thing going on, which is the Muslim atheist thing, right? It's so hard to stand up in the group. And so now you're forced to make a new group, and now you have a new group and you fall into the same trap, let's say, that, and and I feel is the goal, the sort of the utopian in the sense that we have all the bridges built that we can walk across and sit and be with each other and disagree. It's not that we all have to agree. It's not a one agenda, but is the goal of life to build bridges, or is it to take them down?
That's when you talk about when there's like interfaith groups, for example, and the whole purpose is to build bridges between different religious groups to find common ground in terms of morals and ethics and belief in God. And I think it's cool. Like and even if you can discuss the different concepts of God in different religious groups, I would, that would be one good way to get more understanding in the world, more interfaith conferences and groups and gatherings, that kind of stuff.
This is why I told you the old rules, what we learned as children, they're not being followed. They're not being practiced. We've been taught naturally, the human wants to connect and build bridges. But instead, we're going across the world with a scorched earth policy of this arrogance of I'm better than you and my picture, my selfie is the most important thing, and my labeling of me, my dance, my trend. Yeah, it's very like the old rules have been thrown out for some reason, and we're just doing the way what you want to do it. No one really cares anymore. We need to build bridges and we need to connect and we need to grow together as a society is almost, I would argue, around the world. No, I just need to survive by myself and go about my business and get my money. That's it.
Yeah, promoting the individual self identity and what I as an individual would be to the world as a brand.
But
Because everyone becomes a brand now. Every person becomes a brand.
But the problem is the cycle starts to get strength as an individual is zero in this world. You need to get it by being part of a group. And so now, if you don't fit in anywhere, you have to start your own group. And now, when you start your own group, it's because I'm better than you or I think different than you and I don't like the way you do it. And now I'm on the high horse, where yesterday I was on the low horse. I'm now on the high horse.
Yeah, you're on a pony yesterday. Now you're on a freaking stallion.
Winning.
The Arabian stallion.
Yeah, the misfits.
Just like
I think this was a very interesting conversation, and I think we explored some of the challenges. Like I think we did not just easily just dismiss the idea of arrogance or of groups that engage in it. I think there are human pieces that lead to that happening, and it is a human problem. And in order to be positive or constructive, I would say I would encourage myself first to note the slide, to note that I can go down the slide, to know that you can go down the slide. It's very easy to go down the slide. It's very appealing to go down the slide. And where you can do that, and where you already do that in the varieties of group identities that you may hold, and understand where that comes from. And hopefully think about, instead of thinking about how many groups do I take down and how many groups am I better at, how many groups have I built bridges with? How many groups have I engaged with? How many groups have I tried to listen to understand? How many groups have I humanized? How many others have I humanized? I think that would be something I feel, and I might be wrong, but I feel might be a good place to stop for today. If you like this episode, please subscribe, share with a friend, someone going through something. Most times people don't share things with people when they want to change their minds, but I hope it takes you somewhere.
One of the best ways to build bridges is by sharing, guys. Share.
Sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring. Thanks for joining. Subscribe, share, and have a great day. Peace, everybody.
Bye.